Good morning. So today I would like to do a little follow-up to this video which came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, depends on when this is coming out, I'm not sure. I will link it up there somewhere so you can go directly to it if you want to. And I thought that the title on that was reasonably obvious. It was about how I only spend £170 a year on my electricity. And I think the confusion arose because there is a difference between electricity usage and your energy bill. Electricity usage is the electricity you use. Your energy bill is the energy that you use plus the standing charge, plus the VAT that all comes together to basically rip you off. So I had a few people, perhaps not surprisingly, telling me that it was impossible that I had only spent £170 on electricity because the standing charge alone would come to more than that. The clue was in the title, electricity usage. I burned £170 worth of electricity last year. So last year I used 644 kilowatts per hour of electricity, and that came to just over £170. And I talked through all the ways that I use energy, how I save money on my electricity, and all that sort of thing. Now, it's really difficult to gauge how much your bill is going to be each year. I am on a variable tariff because it doesn't work for me as a low user to have a fix, because the fixes don't work for low end users. You're better off just using as you go. So every 3 months they relook at the price cap, which is a meaningless statement, and then basically they put the bill up, and that'll be your kilowatt per hour, pence per kilowatt per hour cost plus the standing charge. And that goes up. And when I say it goes up, it's not always supposed to go up, but usually it goes up. So that changes at the beginning of January, at the beginning of April, the beginning of July, and the beginning of October. And what tends to happen is that it goes up a lot in January, because obviously they know you're going to use more energy, especially when you're heating. They can make lots of money out of you. It goes up again in April because it's still cold. It'll go up a little bit in July because it's summer. It tends to drop a little bit in October, and then it goes right back up again in January. So they're always making their money out of you. And that varies across the country, different regions, blah, 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 blah. So we're all paying different standing charges. And those standing charges have changed a lot over the years. So I haven't done a calculation for exactly what my standing charges came to last year. I've done a kind of an approximation because it changes so much, and because you end up doing so many meter readings, it's just this endless stream of calculations. So I calculated that I'm paying £170 for my electricity usage. On top of that, I was paying roughly last year £162.39 in standing charges, and then of course you've got the 5% VAT on top of that. And this is the problem, particularly for low users like me, where it doesn't matter how much energy you don't use, you are still charged pence per day for a standing charge for the privilege of being connected to the network. Even if you never put any electricity on, if you never used anything, if you never used any gas, you are still being charged that pence per day. and it's an absolute rip-off. It's an absolute disgrace. So right now, as of February, because the prices went up again in January, for electricity, I am paying 49.54 pence per day for my standing charge. So that'll be calculated at 49.54 pence per either 30 days or 31 days, depending on the month. And that then goes on top of the energy usage. Now, if you are struggling to pay your energy bills, because these bills are so high and there's nothing you can do about like half of your energy bill for the year, the only way you can balance your bill and be able to afford to pay it is simply to stop using energy. And this is why we have so much energy poverty at the moment, because this should not be allowed. So my gas bill, I used 733 kilowatts per hour of gas. Gas is a lot cheaper than electricity, and the only things that use gas in my house really is my gas hob. I have an electric oven, I have a gas hob. I don't put the heating on unless it's like really turns cold. So I'm in December, January, there might be a few days where I have to use the gas, the central heating. So last year for 2024, my gas usage cost came to £44.06. But my standing charge on top of that came to about £92.18, which is an absolute blooming joke. And my standing charge for gas as of January was £30.23 per day. And those are going to go up again on the 1st of April. And it may well go up again a little bit on the 1st of July. So this is the problem, and you need to understand the difference between the cost of the usage, the cost of the standing charge, which is something you cannot change, your energy provider, so the people who are responsible for sticking the cables and the pipes into your house, the standing charge comes from them. They get the money for that, not your energy provider. So I can't blame Outfox the market for the standing charge. There are attempts to get this changed, trying to either abolish the standing charge or have a two-tier system where you can choose to either pay for your energy and the standing charge, or you can opt to have the two lumped into one. Now, that doesn't mean that by abolishing the standing charge there won't be one, that you'll only pay for your energy costs. You won't. That standing charge will then be moved to the kilowatt per hour unit. It might not be the same amount, but the difference is that you can control the number of units you use in the same way with my water. I'm on a smart meter for my water. If I choose not to use water, then I don't pay for water. There's no serious extra charge that goes on top of that. So I have better control over what my bills come to. But at the moment we don't have that with the energy. You can use almost no energy at all in your home and you will still end up paying at least maybe £300 or £400 a year for the privilege of being connected to that network. And the only way you can stop it is to be cut off from the system. And for most of us that is not practical at all. So money saving expert Martin Lewis has been campaigning to have this changed for a while. Some energy providers are now starting to make the change, because I think they've put a deadline in of 2026, I think it is, for the standing charge to be changed, so that customers can opt to have it. They will either scrap it completely and it'll all go onto the unit charge, or to have a two-tier system whereby people who are low users can opt to just pay for it within their unit price, and then the less units you use, your energy costs will go down. I don't know How that will work in practice, it hasn't happened yet. So, you know, we hold our breath because, as we know, energy providers, energy suppliers are just making easy money out of us because we have no choice. So for those of you who said it was impossible for me to use £170 worth of electricity per year, it isn't. You needed to read the title and you needed to listen to what I had said in the video, and then it would have made sense. And I have corrected some of those people because energy, your electricity usage and your gas usage is not the same as your bill. It is different. The actual usage is something you can control. The bill is something you can't control. So that is my update. And I don't know what 2025 is going to look like. I mean, if I do a rough calculation for the standing charge. So if I look at, say, last year when my standing charges were roughly £162.39, if the standing charge that came in January of 49.54 pence per day stayed at that for the whole year, I would be paying £180. And that's before I even use any of the energy. So this has to change, and this system will change. And I know that, you know, some people are working on it, campaigners are working on it, but it takes time because the system is controlled by, you've got Ofgem, you've got the energy providers, you've got the energy companies. There's so many hoops to jump through to get this change, but it has to change because the fuel poverty in this country now is a disgrace. There are so many of us who are just not putting on the heating. You know, I don't put the heating on unless we dip below about -3 outside. I've got together a pretty good way of managing that, and I have all the right layers. I have my hot water bottle, I have blankets, I have double duvet on the bed, and to be honest with you, it's a way of life now. I don't really think that much about it. And that's the way it is. And for an awful lot of people who have no control over their income, you know, if you're retired on a state pension, and even if you have an additional workplace pension or a private pension, you know, that energy bill will take everything out of your pocket before you've even managed to pay any other bills or bought food. And if you are ill and you need to have heating on because of illness, and you don't have the money to do that because you're too sick to work, or you have young children at home and you're a stay-at-home parent, there are so many different reasons why you've become a victim of the system, and you have no control over how that changes. So things are changing, but I wanted to just re-clarify for people that don't understand the difference between your usage and your bill. That is the difference. That's my update. Yeah, that's the lot.